Welcome everyone to the first video on the Murphy's Opinion channel, and I thought I'd do a review of one of my favourite all-time films, and that's License to Kill from 1989, starring Timothy Dalton, directed by John Glenn. And yeah, anyway, let's get into the review of the film and my thoughts on it. So, in case you haven't seen the film, I'm going to kind of say the plot. I'm not going to spoil everything, but this is kind of the gist of it. So basically, the film kicks off with James Bond and his friend Felix Leiter, who works for the DEA, which is weird because in a lot of the other films, earlier films and later films, he works for the CIA, so that's interesting. But in this film, it's the DEA. So they're on the way to Felix's wedding, where Felix is going to get married, but the DEA stop them and tell them that drug lord Sanchez is in the area. So they go after and capture him. They capture Sanchez by attacking a hook and cord to Sanchez's plane, pulling it out of the air with a helicopter. So Sanchez is captured, is sent to jail, and they make it just in time for the wedding. However, and then we have the opening title sequence and the song by Gladys Knight, License to Kill, which is actually a very underrated theme. I really like it a lot. I think Knight's vocal skills in the song are really great, and it has a real Bond feel to it, in my opinion. So then, obviously, after the song, we go into the main film now, and Sanchez basically bribes Ed Kilifer, who basically works for the DEA. He gives him, I think it's like $2 million to help him escape. And also, while Sanchez is in jail, his henchman Dario, played by Benicio del Toro, and some of his other henchmen, I believe, ambush Felix and his wife, who just had the wedding, and they take Leiter to an aquarium, which is owned by one of Sanchez's accomplices, Milton Crest, and then basically they lower Leiter into the tank, and he's maimed by a great white shark. Bond then hears about Sanchez's escape. So he runs to Felix's house and he finds, obviously, the maimed Felix, and his wife, Della, has been murdered, and there's implications of rape as well, which is obviously not very nice. So basically Bond goes to investigate with Sharky, and they discover a marine research centre run by Crest, and then they realise that, it's used basically for Sanchez to smuggle cocaine and hide it. And yeah, so then basically Bond then goes to M, who is looking for him, and because Bond was supposed to go to Istanbul, but obviously he didn't, and then went back to Felix's house to see where he was. So obviously then Bond's pissed off with the fact that the DEA aren't going to do anything about Felix's maiming and Della's death. So and Bond resigns, but M obviously doesn't do that. He just suspends Bond and revokes his license to kill. However, Bond escapes and goes rogue, and then basically the rest of the film is Bond trying to get revenge on Sanchez. So I won't spoil anything there. So let's get into the kind of the performance of the main cast as well, where which characters I like, don't like, etc. So let's start with the man himself, James Bond. I think Timothy Dalton gives a great performance as James Bond. This is his best performance as Bond out of the two films he did. And in my opinion, this is one of the best all-time James Bond performances. I really love it. It's gritty. James Bond is just angry. A lot of the time he's pretty pissed off, understandably. I mean, if your best mate got maimed by a shark and their wife raped, I'm sure you'd be pretty pissed off as well. And what I really do like about this film is it shows that James Bond is human. And I think that's why I like this film so much. Bond he's not a superhero. He's not invincible. He's a human. He has limitations, and he's got to kind of overcome those and try and get revenge on Sanchez. So I really like Timothy Dalton in this film. And then we look at Carrie Lowell, who plays Pam Bouvier. She's the main love interest, or one of them anyway. She's a really good Bond girl. She's a lot of fun, strong, independent, kicks ass. I think she's very underrated as well. I think she's acted very well. And I think her and Dalton actually have some good chemistry with one another. And I think it's much like this film in general. She goes very underlooked. And speaking of underlooked, Robert Davi, who plays Sanchez. Sanchez, in my opinion, is one of the greatest Bond villains of all time. He's so underrated. He shows such a variety of emotions in this film. He can be calm and cool, but he can also be hot-headed. He will even go out of his way to like kill his own men if they betray him. He cares more about money than he cares more about loyalty, I should say, than money. Which is ironic because he's actually bought a lot of his loyalty, which I find quite interesting as well. One of his henchmen is played by a young Benicio del Toro, and he's actually really good as well. Very underrated as well. He doesn't have that much screen time, but what the screen time that he does have, he uses it very well, and he's comes across as really psychotic and just demented, and I really like that. He's a pretty fun henchman, I think. And we've got another one. Sanchez accomplices Anthony Zerbe, who plays Milton Crest. This guy, I do really like the way he's performed by Zerbe. He's so slimy and dislikable, and he just looks like a complete rat. And you can tell from the start of the film he's just a really just a dick, really. The other love interest, Talisa Soto, she's the only thing I can really complain about in this film. Like, she's wooden, has no real sort of personality. The only thing that she has going for her is that she's attractive. Apart from that, I'm sorry, but she's just not that good, and I think the only real complaint in this film, in all honesty. Sharky, I think, is a lot of fun as one of Bond's allies. He's so likable and fun, and, he's, just a lot of the Bond allies, they have to be likable, and I think he's one of the best allies of Bond, and obviously he follows the kind of formula of a lot of the Bond allies. I'm not going to spoil it, but if you watch a lot of the John Glenn directed Bond films, you'll see he follows a similar formula. Desmond Llewellyn is Q. Now, this, I think, is one of the best Q performances in the entire series. I think he definitely gets the most screen time, but he just comes across as so likable. We see a connection with Bond that we don't really see in the other films. And that's mainly because, it's not in the workplace, it's kind of out of the field. And you can really tell that Bond has a real connection with M and Q, I should say. And Q really does actually care for Bond, and he is one of his best agents. So he gives him, he does assist him in the field despite Bond going rogue, which I think is pretty cool as well. A lot of people say that M is a dick in this film, and I can definitely see why. Like, he does get pissed off with Bond, but the thing is, it's understandable. Like, Bond is going against his orders. However, I will say the agents trying to actually kill Bond just for trying to escape. I think that's pretty ridiculous. However, but again, I still think Robert Brown plays M well, despite not being in the film that much. Same with Moneypenny. She's not in the film that much either. Caroline Bliss. She doesn't really do that much. She's in one scene, so. Can't really comment on her that much, really. But the score, let's move on to this musical score. Michael Kamen does a really brooding, sinister score, and it's really good all round, I think. It really suits the tone of the film. And I'd say definitely check out License Revoked. It's got a lot of the kind of music samples from the film all kind of combined into one. So, but it's definitely one of my favourite versions of the James Bond theme. It's so loud and brooding and sinister, and I really like it. So let's look on to the action scenes, and this film has got some great action scenes in it. The fuel tanker chase towards the end is awesome. The water ski and airplane hijack is awesome with Bond. Like windsurf, kind of like surfing. That's pretty cool. Even the opening title sequence, I think, is quite cool with Bond and Felix going after Sanchez in his plane. That's pretty good as well. Those, I'd say, are the highlights in terms of the action scenes. So, overall, as a kind of conclusion, I really do love License to Kill. It's definitely in my top 5. One of the best James Bond films of all time. It's acted very well by all the cast except, obviously, Talisa Soto, who plays Lupi. She's pretty shit, but she's not... she doesn't ruin the film, I'd say. If you're a fan of gritty Bond adventures, especially the Daniel Craig films, I reckon you'll really like this one. Because at the end, it's a great adventure, and it kind of it's a lot different to a lot of the other Bond films in terms of formula. It's not necessarily Bond being sent on a mission. He's doing the opposite, going against his mission and going rogue. And yeah, I really do enjoy this film. Let me know what you think of this film. Is it one of your favourites, least favourites? What do you think of Timothy Dalton as Bond? I'd like to get your thoughts on that in the comment section below. If you haven't already, guys, please like and subscribe, and let me know what film you'd like me to review next time, whether another Bond film or maybe a completely different film. All kind of comments and suggestions would be greatly appreciated. And thanks for watching, guys.